So today's a really significant day in how the border is responding to the federal government's plans to build a massive, very intrusive border wall and buoy system along and inside the Rio Grande. So the Zapata County commissioners today, Martin presented, and another county resident who lives along the river by San Ignacio El Sahol, they presented, and in the end, the commissioners voted unanimously today on a couple of key things, two critical items. Number one was to pass a resolution in opposition to the buoys because of how the risks that this type of infrastructure will have on their community. And number two, they voted to hire an expert to study the impacts that the wall and buoy system will have in Zapata County. And this is critical to understand because right now the federal government, they are not acting in a transparent manner with our border communities. It's a massive project that Dr. Mark Tompkins, a scientist that we commissioned, has already outlined the type of risks and harms that will happen to communities like ours that are vulnerable to this in terms of human life and property damage, and also impacts to infrastructure. So for Zapata to then take this step to say, well, the federal government is not providing us with basic design plans to understand the impacts, Zapata County today said, we're going to take that on. We're going to do that ourselves because of the responsibility that we have to human life and property and assets here in this county.
Thank you very much. You are from here. You have roots in Zapata, yes?
Correct.
Yes. What are your family or relatives saying? What is something that you can add on to that? Why is this so important, and how can people become more active?
Yeah, I think this is a huge issue in this part of the state and this part of the country. I think that people are from this area really have the right to know what's going on. I think that's really important, just transparency and clarity of what the issues are, because we all stand to impact from things that are occurring in our river. It's our main water source. It's our main life source. It's the reason that these communities were built here in the first place.
Right.
And so I think that's really what's of the utmost importance, is that we remain informed and that we're knowledgeable about the things that have the potential to impact us and our families so deeply.
What do you think is something that people can do specifically? Because you are providing that information to us here in Zapata. We live here, but a lot of people are not knowledgeable. What is something that people can do, in your opinion?
Sure. I think one of the biggest things they can do is stay informed, contact, the Rio Grande International Studies Center, advocates from the No Border Wall Coalition, get in touch with our advocates. But most importantly, I think, citizens and, landowners need to be aware of their rights and the dangers that, this infrastructure poses to, public health and human life and property. And they also folks should be reaching out to their elected officials, their congressional elected officials, their state representatives, to warn them about the dangers, let them know about the impacts that this is going to have, the seizure of their land, and just make sure that our elected officials in Washington, D.C. and in Austin are very aware about the dangers and people's land being taken away.
Trisha, so a lot of people are thinking this has to do with border security, and they're not really thinking about the safety and the crisis that we're having with the lack of water, very little water in the river.
Yes.
To your knowledge, I read a study from Henry Cuellar from 22, not a study, it was an article where he was addressing Falcon Lake in the crisis, being that it's very low, but it was back from 2022. 4 years later, here we are, it's worse than ever. Has there been a new statement from our representative, from the representative? congressional representative.
Right. I mean, it is really critical that we are in direct contact, calling and emailing our congressional and state officials to take action on this. This is a critical moment that's very hard to come back from because of the damages and the massive taking of land. And to your point, you know, we're in these very serious drought conditions that are affecting rainfall and the flows of the river and the capacity in Falcon and Amistad dams. So that should be the number one priority here.
Going on.
Well, this is the strangest part of it is that the justification for this is not there. Illegal crossings and apprehensions are at historic lows. They have been at historic lows for many, many months. We are Webb County and Zapata County are part of the Laredo sector. We're one of 9 sectors on the southern border. We're always kind of in the middle toward the bottom in terms of apprehensions and crossings. So the justification is just not there. And so it is just mind-boggling, and it's to know that they are awarding billions of dollars to take land, destroy the land, put in a metal wall, put in buoys, these impacts that are going to be profound and for the long term, when there's so many other needs and there is not the justification to do this. We all want border security, every single one of us, but we know that this is not the answer. So, and for them to waive federal contract laws, waive all sorts of federal environmental protections in order to do this for something that has no justification, it is unconscionable. It is unacceptable.
So it's money that is not well spent. I think the community of Zapata would say rather spent those billions of dollars in addressing the the infrastructure of the water system,
Yes.
or not just here in Zapata, but also Laredo and then down the river. Because what happens here in Laredo and Zapata affects the Rio Grande as well.
Exactly.
All the way to Brownsville.
1 mile of wall is, they're saying $20 to $25 million for 1 mile of wall. 1 mile of buoy, $5 million. What could Zapata County do with $5 million for 1 mile? I mean, budgets and how taxpayer money gets spent. These are moral questions and decisions, and the way that they're doing this is not correct. And the last thing I'll say here is, we as a border community cannot allow these people from DC to tell a story about us that is not true. We are very safe communities. There are many things we celebrate. These are historic communities, and for them to come in and paint a picture that is false about us, that will have very long-term consequences, that's something that we will not accept, and why this movement is growing, and why you're seeing opposition and motions like the ways the Zapata County commissioners and their judge, these kinds of actions that they took today.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you for all your work.
Yeah.